All right, quick BB Nate, what was your favorite moment in Shang-Chi?
That post-credit scene with Wong was awesome. It means Doctor Strange is back, which is exciting.
Okay, you are excited about that. What about you, Samuel the Hutt?
Oh, definitely the that extremist dude in the Fight Club, in the MCU Fight Club.
Oh,
wait, are we allowed to talk about that?
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Obviously, when Trevor suddenly realized that his relationship with Morris wasn't a figment of his imagination brought on by decades of abusing hallucinogenic drugs.
Morris is the best character in the movie. Easily.
The pig chicken.
He was the face of the movie. Oh, wait.
Oh, no, he is definitely not the face of the movie. All right, thanks for downloading and listening to this week's show. We cannot wait to discuss Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings in classic Tatooine Sun style, which, of course, means at least one dad moment, probably more.
Yeah.
This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to it.
Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcasts to name a canon Star Wars creature and be endorsed by Rian Johnson.
That's true.
Some high credits, credentials. That's what it is.
Well, I mean, people listen to this intro, and if they don't know what's going on in that intro that we just came out of,
That's a good point, yeah.
I wanted to do that. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there's a story. It is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story, and that is why we are talking about Shang-Chi and What If and the Hidden Fortress and the lessons that they can teach us. I'm Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Father.
Also, David. I'm honored.
Hi, David.
Yeah, I'm honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons. BB Nate, you're talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings this week.
I'm not talking about Shang-Chi. It's Shang-Chi.
I know, we've been doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi.
We're American,
I gotta say that correctly because it annoys me when I don't say those names correctly. But yes, I'm talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and it's just I just can't wait to get your thoughts on everything, especially on who the Ten Rings are calling out to. That's going to be an interesting one.
That sounds interesting. Samuel the Hutt, as everyone expects, if they listen to this show, you'll be leading our conversation on what if Doctor Strange loses his heart instead of his hands.
Yes, sir. I'm real excited. This was one of the best episodes so far. Did y'all notice the Watcher is kind of becoming more and more important with this stuff?
And that's something that I'm very excited about because, as you know, I like the Watcher as a character on that. He's definitely making his presence known. I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say about that. If you can tell, we're pretty excited about this episode. We've got so much to discuss. But before we jump in, I want to ask all of our regular listeners to be sure to stick around to the very end of the show. We've got something really important to ask you to do that we hope will help us on our never-ending quest to produce a show that not only entertains and informs, but actually makes you think about life a little differently. And there might be a chance for you to win some Turbis swag.
Hey.
So you don't want to miss it. BB Nate, you ready to talk Shang-Chi?
Of course.
All right.
As always. Well, this week we got our first Marvel movie released this year, only in theaters. And it was awesome. So we will talk about our thoughts, some surprises, and of course, Wong singing karaoke.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way. people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
That man has no limits.
It was funny, like, before we saw the movie, Nate and I were walking through Target, and we went through the toy section, we came across all these Shang Chi toys, and there was this plush with no face, and we're like, what the heck is this? And
did it have like a Shang Chi tag or logo or something?
Yeah, we knew it was from the movie. We're like, what is this? And then we look at the name tag, and it's Morris, and we're like, what is this thing?
That's hilarious, because yesterday as I was going through our new Designed by Humans t-shirt store, which we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But I saw a Morris logo shirt. I sent it to you guys today.
Freaking cool.
I was like, what the heck is that? How did that get into a Shang-Chi page on Designed by Humans? And now I'm like, was thinking about it today. I'm like, oh, that's what that was.
Such a cool shirt.
Yeah.
But let's just jump right into your thoughts. So on a scale of 1 to 10 rings, that's 10 rings.
Nice.
What did you think of the movie?
1 to 10.
You can go 0.6 if you want, or like something like that.
I would hate to divide one of the rings.
That might like blow up the universe.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 8 out of 10.
Wow, that's high.
8 out of 10.
Why do you say 8 out of 10? Give like a little bit of
loved the movie, loved the story, thought it was beautifully done. Everything was fantastic. I just felt like it felt like a fantastic Phase 1 movie rather than a Phase 4 movie.
Yeah.
So
okay, Sam, how many rings?
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 7 or 8, just because it was a fantastic Marvel movie, but it didn't really have any huge bearing or revelation towards the main story. But I loved it
until you get to the end credits scene.
Well, even that didn't give us
just
much.
Hit you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's move to the biggest surprises in this movie. Which there were a lot of surprises in this movie, but to cover them all, we would be here all freaking day. So Sam, what was the biggest surprise for you?
The biggest surprise, I think it's kind of what I said at the beginning. Seeing an extremis soldier was really cool to me, because I loved Iron Man 3.
Are you like the one of 3 people in the entire planet that like that movie?
I love that movie, and it doesn't get enough credit. So seeing that was really, really cool for me. So I think that was probably the biggest surprise to me.
It was a really, really cool surprise. Both Sammy and I were like just so excited to see that. But Dad, what about you? Any cool surprises?
Wow, I haven't thought about this question yet. So, the biggest surprise, I think, the fact that Shang-Chi doesn't... Shang-Chi, sorry. The biggest surprise is Shang-Chi's name is not Shang-Chi. It is Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
I think that it was... I kind of expected him to be superpowered at some point, and I don't get the vibe that he's...
He kind of is, but he just takes his power from the heart of the dragon.
But I don't get that. I didn't get that feeling in the movie. I felt like it was just he's like legitimately just a super trained martial artist that, he gets the superpowers when he gets the rings at the end. Spoiler alert! But I didn't seem to have the superpowers throughout the entire movie.
Not throughout the entire movie, but towards the end, he kind of had that wind manipulation.
Yeah, the only
stuff.
way he would be able to manipulate the rings is with that power. That's the only
way he did.
Yeah.
So he's tapping into some kind of a power, but
like
I don't think
like his mom did.
Right, that's my point. But he's not a superhero. He's not like super powered himself. No. He's not like born with some innate ability or whatever.
Not really.
I mean, it's similar to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange doesn't have powers. He draws from the cosmic energy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, BB Nate?
A faceless pig with a bird thing was one of them. But probably them traveling dimensions was a big surprise.
Yeah, I
didn't expect them to do that. And using dragon scales as weapons was freaking awesome.
That was pretty cool.
But yeah, I loved it. It was such a good movie. Reminded me a lot of Doctor Strange, so that's probably why I liked it so much.
Well, maybe because there was a lot of Doctor Strange stuff in the movie.
Yeah, that's also true. But
and again, you talk about Morris and all of that, and bringing in Trevor from Iron Man 3. There was a lot of Iron Man 3 brought into this story.
There was. And so speaking on how the MCU is impacted on this, let's talk about how everything was fit into it with the MCU. We have to talk some more about Trevor.
Yeah.
How cool was it for you guys to see him back? And did y'all notice how he even like touched on, like they made fun of how poorly received he was as a Mandarin?
Yeah, I liked that. Like, they had the dad making fun. He was like the name off of an orange chicken dish, like he decided that, and it worked. It freaked out the nation, but like it wasn't received well, and it just ended up hurting him in the end. I thought it was funny, and I liked it. He was a fun character. I wasn't a huge fan of how they did the Mandarin character kind of wrong. He was still a fun character, and I think it was cool that they were bringing him back.
I like Trevor. I think he's hilarious.
I think he is hilarious.
He was a terrifying character as the Mandarin before you find out that he's
he isn't a terrifying character. He is a great actor.
Right. Which then presented him as a terrifying character in that. And so I thought he was great there. And then when it switched over and we found out that he was just Trevor and he was an actor, I liked him as that actor. I liked him as that as well. So I don't understand the hatred. I guess I didn't have any connection or experience with the Mandarin before that, so I didn't know that there was this character that he was supposed to be in Iron Man 3.
Really, the only connection Sammy and I had to Mandarin is the 3D animated Iron Man show. At least that's what I remember.
I watched the old 2D animated Iron Man show, and the Mandarin was the big bad guy in that. So
you had like a connection to the character, and were you disappointed in Iron Man 3?
Oh, he was.
I was upset that the Mandarin wasn't actually what the Mandarin could have been, but they kind of redeemed it in this, even though he's not going to get to fight Iron Man, which is a little disappointing.
Right.
Yeah, but Wong and Abomination had a big fight, and that was really cool. It was, he used a sling ring for Abomination to punch himself. That was really cool.
Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?
So what do you think about seeing Wong again, but more importantly, Abomination? Looks like another one-shot has creeped its way into this movie.
Okay, explain to me the one-shot thing.
There was one shot, and there was a person who decided that Abomination wasn't really a bad guy and was actually in S.H.I.E.L.D. and was trying to get Abomination to be included in the Avengers Initiative. And Coulson was trying his best for that not to happen.
Wait,
that
what?
was basically the whole one shot. So Abomination is still a thing, and apparently in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which isn't quite canon, but it's been hinted at that Abomination was in cryo freeze for a long time. So there's been hints to Abomination since the Incredible Hulk. He didn't die.
I thought that the scene itself was a little anticlimactic. There wasn't anything in that scene that I thought this was going to be a major moment in the movie. And it was just like, oh, okay, they fought.
Okay, there is
that's a good point.
One thing, though, that is being pointed out to relating to Spider-Man No Way Home with at least Wong. And so when we're seeing Wong basically being like, it's okay, Abomination, you didn't win this time, and pulling him to that portal, and you see that prison of the red laser walls, it looks a lot like the
post-credit scene moment.
No post-credit scene. That was
that was in that one. Okay.
That was in that part. There's a rumor that Spider-Man is put into one of those cells, and that's when we see that weird creature who's being rumored as Lizard hit the edge.
Oh, he's in the cell next to him, and
it looks a lot similar.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Cool.
But the blip was also mentioned, so this is, it was mentioned. It was nothing past that. They didn't, talk about how it affected people or anything, but did y'all see the posters for Blip Sync?
No, I didn't see the poster for Blip Sync. I was like blip therapy groups, like blip mental illness and stuff.
There was a whole wall of blip related businesses, and I thought it was funny. Maybe that Blip Sync is that karaoke place that Shang Chi and Katie go to.
Yeah, I was curious. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. That Blip Sync would be the karaoke place. But I was just, when I saw the blip mental illness thing, it was one of those layers that makes the MCU special, because I had never really thought about the mental impact of the entire world disappearing and then coming back.
Right.
We saw
for both the people who disappeared and the people who stayed.
Exactly. In Endgame, we see there's this group that Steve Rogers is leading to dealing with the loss.
Right.
But now all those people have to deal with them coming back. And the people that have been gone have to deal sort of in a manifest type moment where they've disappeared and now they're coming back. It's 5 years later. All of that. That's what makes the MCU special is they throw in those little things that somebody's thinking about those elements within the story.
I bet you blip sync is for the people who were gone for 5 years. It's to sync them up with what's currently going on. Catches them up on
maybe
blip sync.
That'd be cool. That would be really cool.
I've got a business idea. Now we just need to make half the people disappear for 5 years and come back.
Let's not do that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not. So let's talk about the post-credit scenes. There were actually 2 in this movie, which is sometimes rare for a Marvel movie, but it was really cool to see it. The first post-credit scene, which is, of course, my favorite moment in the movie. It was a long post-credit scene. This one sets up where Shang-Chi and Katie go from where we left off at the end of the movie. What you can basically get from the scene is that the rings have sent a beacon message thing to someone somewhere.
Oh, wow.
That's all the answers we really got. Oh, wait, also Wong saying Hotel California.
Welcome to
That's
the
a very
That was funny.
Very
How many
important.
people in school today that saw that movie last night were like walking up to just people and singing Hotel California? That's what I want to know. So.
Hey, I'm just hoping to introduce some kids to good old classic rock.
Yes.
Great. You know, you want a little dad moment, like side.
Mini
this
side
is like
dad
this is not like a character moment, but like a stupid,
old person
stupid dad
moment?
knowledge moment.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that there was like when I was growing up that people were like convinced that song was about like the Satanic Church?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I'm
You already
pretty
knew
sure
that. All right.
I'm pretty sure it's about drugs, though.
Yeah, it is about drugs. Yeah.
Sam, what did you think when Bruce and Carol showed up?
That was weird.
They just were there.
Yeah, I mean, they're the people. It was interesting that Bruce is back as Bruce and not Hulk.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit more about that. And I think I figured out how he got out of there. There's a bracelet on his arm that, isn't messed up that has a green button on it. And I'm wondering if that allows him to transfer from it.
That's interesting. But his arm's still
His arm is still messed up.
Maybe he just does that when he needs to reach the top shelf at the store. He just turns into Hulk real quick and then
turns into Hulk. Gets I can get that. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah. No, I loved seeing it. It did not hit me at first that this was Bruce Banner and that mattered, him not being Hulk. At first, it took me it took me a little bit in the conversation. You're right; it is a long scene to be able to process that. And then I was struggling. We talked about it afterwards last night, trying to figure out what's going on, why his arm was in a sling. You guys explained to me because he's still injured from the snap,
the gauntlet,
that he did. There was a whole group of girls that sat behind us that screamed when they saw Carol Danvers. When
they were freaked out by both of them.
But I thought that was cool. I like to hear people excited about Captain Marvel because that's a part. Whether or not you liked the movie, some people didn't. It's not at the top of everybody's list. The reality is she's a major part of the MCU now, and we need that character to be strong, especially going into the Marvels and Miss Marvel and things like that.
And it was nice that she had her long hair back. The Karen haircut just didn't do anything for her.
It did not work. Dad, what do you think the beacon means?
Man, I don't know. I thought the first thing I thought of was Eternals type stuff.
I was thinking Celestials or bringing in that kind of thing. I think that there could be something there. Sam?
Yeah, on the drive home, we were researching some stuff and we found out about Fing Fang Foom or whatever. We were seeing if the dragon in this movie was that, which it's not. But I learned that in the comics, when Fing Fang Foom came to Earth some 10,000 years ago or something crazy, he brought the 10 rings with him. So maybe in the MCU, the 10 rings were already here, but that beacon is calling out to Fing Fang Foom.
That's a very strong. That actually makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense. The second post-credit scene actually set up. I'm going to botch this name because I don't remember it. I mean, I don't even... The sisters...
Shilings. Gosh darn it, we're never good at this
Zeeling,
stuff.
I don't remember. I'm just going to say the sisters.
Xiaoling, I think that's it.
Xiaoling. Xiaoling's story with her now running the new 10 rings and basically becoming the next Mandarin.
Or the real Mandarin.
Yeah. The real Mandarin. Dad, do you think this will be super important to the MCU or just to Shang-Chi?
I think this sets up a sequel.
Oh, yeah.
to
Of
Shang-Chi.
course.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really interesting how they keep bringing in characters that are sort of bad guys, but not villains. And it feels really like this is another one of those.
Yes. Touching on that, Sam, do you think Xiaoling, I forget what.
Xiaoling was right.
Yeah, Xiaoling will become a part of the Thunderbolts.
I think so. I mean, she's got, resources all over the world and parts of every sort of country. I mean, that would be invaluable to Contessa.
Who are part of the Thunderbolts?
John Walker, Yelena, and Xiaoling probably.
I think there was one more.
Baron Zemo.
Yeah. Probably maybe
the Power Broker. Is the Power Broker part of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Sharon
Carter.
Sharon Carter.
Maybe White Vision.
Ooh.
Could be a possibility.
Ooh.
Sylvie could also be a possibility if she ever gets back from the Time Palace, which I'm sure she will.
One thing though that stands out to me in this movie, we didn't really talk about it a whole lot earlier, but going back to the relationship between the dad and the children, as a dad, you look back and you see times in your life where maybe you got too focused on your career or other things and you realize you've neglected your family. And so we see that happen in our own lives, but that's kind of what, Marvel does everything times 1,000, in everything that they do.
Right.
So,
right.
So in this, it's kind of like, the dad was so obsessed with his own things, especially after his wife died again, that he got those blinders on and he didn't even see what was happening to his own family and his own life. And so, I think that's a storyline in this movie that if I go back, which I'm sure we're going to go back and watch it this weekend if we can, I want to focus on a little bit more of that relationship. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I really, really love this movie. And of course I can't wait to see it again, but so many cool things happened. And I think that Marvel is back to the movies again. And that is very good news.
That is good news. That's awesome. But this week we're going to start a new little segment where we're going to call it Bad News, where we discuss 3 of the most insane headlines of articles from fandom released in the past week and why we think they're nothing more than clickbait.
Chuta, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and...
You got one?
What is it?
Minecraft.
Okay.
Fans.
Cool.
They do have Minecraft.
They do.
Stuff.
Oh, good. We've got a very exciting announcement for you.
That's right. Yeah, we are now partnering with Design by Humans. Design by Humans is an amazing collection of artists and creatives who want to offer the best of the best in apparel and accessories for all the geeks and the nerds out there, like you guys.
Yeah, they're awesome. They offer some of the coolest officially licensed Star Wars, Marvel, and DC shirts, mugs, hats, and more. It's really cool.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, if you see an awesome Star Wars or DC or Marvel shirt and wonder where you can get it, you can probably get it at Design by Humans.
And because I know you're wondering, yes, they do have Morris shirts. That like chicken thing we were talking about. The thing you didn't know what it was when you added it to our store.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
have
I saw it. Yeah, it's awesome.
But they've also got more Shang-Chi stuff. They've got What If, The Mandalorian, Batman, and tons of other cool stuff.
But the best part is when you purchase using the link at TatooineSons.com, 100% of our proceeds from your purchase are used to provide food, medicine, education, and more to a child who desperately needs it.
Yeah. So again, if you are looking for any officially licensed shirts or items from all of your favorite fandoms, please check out all of the items that are available at the link on TatooineSons.com.
Well, you want the bad news or the really bad news?
All right, headline 1. Here we go. Star Wars is reportedly changing the name of The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah, no way.
Yeah, this headline comes from InsideTheMagic.com, which has a so-so track record. It's an entire article that's actually built off of a tweet by Jordan Mason, who's the editor-in-chief of Cinelinx. Now, I consider Jordan to be a very credible source, but here's the tweet. All right, here it goes. Regarding hashtag The Mandalorian stuff going around. Haven't heard about it ending at season 3. I've been hearing 4th season, but there's an end planned. And if it ends, I've also heard it'll just morph into a new show that sticks with the characters and the time period, but under a new name. For example, parentheses, just hypothetical. Imagine a story point where the show changes to The Mandalore or something instead of The Mandalorian. Now, here's where we have to be careful. Jordan Mason is speculating about a rumor that he's hearing. There isn't a fact here in any way. It is just a rumor. And Inside the Magic.com leans way clickbaity when it comes to these kinds of headlines. And that's what I think is going on with this. So I'm going to give this a clickbait level of 5.
All right. Headline number 2, Marvel's recast Black Widow may make MCU return next year. This headline is also from InsideTheMagic.com, and it kind of perfectly illustrates what you just said, Dad. When fans see this headline on social media, it immediately sounds like Marvel and DC are recasting Black Widow in live action, but that's actually not what this is about. The article is about season 2 of What If, where Paul Hossein discusses a return of the same actress who played Natasha Romanoff in season 1 of What If. The headline is designed to capitalize on the tension between Scarlett Johansson and Disney over the day and date release of Black Widow. While that has nothing to do with the actual facts, that is getting a clickbait level 9.
Whoa,
Wow.
just throwing it down.
Right.
That's high. That's high. All right, BB.
Yeah, this one is Bane will reportedly return an HBO Max project in 2022.
Nice.
Now, honestly,
That's
this sounds
exciting,
it
right?
sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I would be really excited. And then I see We Got This Covered. It's a We Got This Covered report speculating on a tweet by Grace Randolph, the host of the Beyond the Trailers show and YouTube channel. The tweet has a comic book image of Bane and simply says, "Okay, you wanted some DCEUT. Bane soon, early 2022. Hashtag DC, hashtag HBO Max." The problem is that Grace Randolph is known for hyping up rumors and then being proven wrong, including a Twitter feud with director Kathy Yan over reshoots on Birds of Prey. Randolph also reported and continued to defend a rumor that Pedro Pascal quit and walked off the set of The Mandalorian in the middle of season 2. That rumor was repeatedly shot down by those close to the show, and even other journalists have criticized her for her handling of that story, and several others.
Ouch.
I'm giving this a clickbait level of 10.
Whoa. And
All
you
right,
would
it
love to
deserves
have
it.
this show.
Oh, 100%. And there are many things reported by her that sound really awesome, but I can never believe them. And I don't know how she has a blue check mark, honestly.
Yeah, anyway, we won't ever get a blue check mark. That's it.
Yeah, so let's talk What If. Episode 4 of What If shows us a reimagining of the origins of Doctor Strange and what repercussions come from that. We see Steven go down a dark path with the best of intentions, but with the worst of results. We'll discuss how devotion can turn to obsession and why things happen for a reason. It's all up next.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
You're coming to us. Is as the footsteps of doom.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
This episode make you excited for Multiverse of
Oh my gosh, I was already excited before, but this just hyped me up way more. And so this had scary moments, but seeing Sam Raimi doing Doctor Strange 2, it just makes me even more excited. I'm so pumped.
Yeah. All right, before we get any further, I want to get y'all's initial reactions. Rating on a scale of 1 to 10 spells.
Okay. Who you
Spells.
want
It was
first?
rings for Shang-Chi. It's spells for Doctor
Spells.
Strange.
Both make sense. Yeah,
What do you
I'll go first. It's hard to think of a number for this episode because it was just so good. I'm willing to put it at a 9. I would give it a 10, but the voice acting was a little bit shoddy at a couple points.
Yeah,
It felt
Benedict
off.
Cumberbatch is
He's an actor, not
physical
a
actor.
voice actor, but still loved the episode so much.
I'm going to give it a 9 and reserve the 10 for what happens as a result of it.
That's good.
Because I sat there spellbound for pretty much. Oh, I didn't even mean for that one to happen. Oh, wow. That was good. It's just natural. The dad puns just come out without even planning them. I was spellbound sitting there watching it. It finished. The credit shows up on the screen for the writer or the director or whatever. Yeah. And I just go, wow. It was without a doubt the best What If episode.
Oh, I don't even know if there will be a better one. And if so, then it has to be good.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 9 as well. I mean, it was just so good. But there's a key element that runs through this. So in this episode, we see a reimagining of Doctor Strange where instead of him losing his hands, he loses his love, Christine, in the car crash. The episode follows Stephen trying to find a way to bring her back. He's obsessed with his mission to the point where he's like absorbed all of these magical creatures. And with each one absorbed, he becomes less and less himself. He becomes darker and more disfigured. Seeing someone go down such a dark path to save the one they love isn't anything new to us. I mean, look at Luke Skywalker or Anakin Skywalker.
That's just absolutely true.
I want to ask you guys, how can devotion turn to obsession? They kind of touched on that in the episode. And how can that end up hurting someone? Dad, what do you think?
It reminds me somewhat of Shang Chi. With his wife, it's a very similar connection to that. I hope that was what you were going to say, BB Nate. Was
no?
It? Okay, good.
No, he was just freaked out that he didn't say Shang Chi.
Shang-Chi, sorry. Okay, so it's this idea of being just completely consumed with something, and it doesn't matter. I talked about it in the last big segment too. In Shang-Chi, this obsession can consume so much of our thinking and everything that we don't even know we're hurting others or ourselves. In this story, the person that is hurt up until the end when everything goes crazy is really it's Stephen. He spends centuries or countless periods of time completely in seclusion, completely cut off from the rest of the world. He's alive, but
he's not living.
Yeah, as a result of this obsession with getting Christine back instead of letting go. So yeah, I think that the Anakin thing was a really interesting connection there.
Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious he didn't have ill intentions. I mean, what he was trying to do was good in nature. He was trying to bring somebody back to life. But in that case, his obsession, he didn't realize the fact that he even could be hurting people. I mean, when he was fighting good Stephen, he even said, "You're hurting other people. Other people are dying." And he's like, "You're lying." And so he honestly didn't want to hurt other people. And then the end, when he's apologizing in his own mirror dimension, that was,
Yeah. And they even at the beginning of his, trying to gain more power, he asked them, he's like, "Hey, would you mind giving me some power?" Like he was still trying to do it the right way, but it wasn't working. So he had the best of intentions the whole way through. It's just he became so, like you said in Shang-Chi, he had blinders on and he could only see his mission.
And can we point out the fact that the soul sucking he did looks a lot like the soul sucking that the monsters did in Shang-Chi?
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even made that connection yet. All right.
Maybe, why didn't he absorb one of those? Did he absorb one of those creatures?
He might have at some point.
Well, that's pretty intense.
All right,
I have to go back and watch those both now.
The MacGuffin of this episode, and the reason why Stephen has to become so powerful is the fact that Christine's death is called an absolute point in the timeline by the Ancient One, and that it cannot be changed or the fate of reality would be at stake, which is kind of a new concept to us. We'd never heard of this before in the MCU, but it poses an interesting question. There are some moments that are critical to some people's lives or to possibly everyone's lives. If people were able to go back and change things in their past, do you think that's a good idea? And if not, why?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. because you never know if changing something can change things for the worse or even for the better. So yeah, time travel, you don't mess with time travel. We saw that with Back to the Future. It doesn't work out well.
There's a couple things. I mean, just in the storyline, I think this is a really interesting element to throw into phase 4 of the MCU with everything happening in Loki and multiverses and those types of things. Can you change the past with that? So I'm curious about that. As far as going back, is this a good idea? I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I have asked this question a lot. It's something I've been fascinated with over the years, is asking people to look back. I think we've even done it in some interviews with some people, asking people to go back and think about a moment in their past when a very clear A or B choice was put before them. And then the question I ask is, what choice did you make, and would you go back and change it if you could? And what has been really interesting is almost every single person, I'm not even sure if it's not every single person I've ever asked that question to, will come up with things. And sometimes they're horrible things. I remember of DJ Blake, when he was on our show, talked about this moment where he was ready to give up when he had cancer. They were giving him a terminal diagnosis. It was going to be a very short period of time. He could have just said, I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm not going to take any more medication. I'm not going to do surgery. He could have done that. And instead he went through horrible, surgeries and stuff like that. And suffered for a long time, but he lived through it, and he would never go back and change it. I think that there's lots of these moments. I've heard people that had horrible things happen in their life as a result of those choices, but also good things have come out. And so when you go back and you change one of those absolute points in your life, not only do you move away from all the bad in your past, but you also get rid of all the good in your past. And I think that when we focus on what that good is, sometimes it makes it clear that was that absolute point in this context is not something we would want to change.
Yeah. So we found out toward the end of the episode that Dark Strange is actually just half of Steven. The Ancient One split Steven into two beings, so one could pursue saving Christine while the other would just move on and stay in the Sanctum Sanctorum. One could say that he was living two lives. Now we watched this episode on Thursday because Wednesdays are crazy, and later that day we went to go watch Shang-Chi. And there was one line from the Spider-Way, Man No Home.
Spider-Man No
Way Home trailer that kind of caught our attention. When the spell that Steven tries to cast goes wrong, he chastises Peter by saying, the problem is you trying to live two different lives. Nathan, you made this connection before any of us. Why don't you explain your thoughts?
Okay, Dad and I both looked at each other and we said nothing. We both looked at each other and Dad's like, you get what I'm thinking? I'm like, I know exactly what you are thinking. It feels like they put that line in the trailer, and it always felt like Strange has always felt weird in that trailer. Like, kind of a bad guy. So he might have actually split himself again.
Split Peter.
Yeah, he might have split Peter too. So I think it more has to do with Strange. I don't think anything to do with Peter splitting, because Strange is really weird. He wouldn't willingly mess up time. That's not who he is. I mean, he wasn't going to give Thanos the time stone. Why would he break it into 1,000 different branching realities? That's not him. So I feel like there's one thing where he might be wanting to break open the multiverse to be able to redo something that happened in his past. And what that is, I don't think a car crash has any problem with him, but
I wonder if they're setting up this too strange kind of idea, maybe in What If, in order to set up something for Spider-Man No Way Home. It just felt like that's too big of a
connection,
of a coincidence to have that episode on Wednesday and then the trailer saying basically the same thing. I felt like there has to be some. And we could be completely wrong.
Oh yeah,
but maybe I should tweet out to some people that I know and see what they think about that. I'm curious.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys have noticed this, but it seems like the Watcher is becoming more and more present each episode. This episode much more than any of the others, even taking physical form and having a discussion with Steven where Steven begs the Watcher to fix what happened. He said that he had actually read about him and knew that he could fix this, which is interesting. There's documentation on the Watcher. Ultimately, though, Uatu upholds his oath and doesn't interfere, but he gave it more consideration than any time before. What do you guys think is happening with the Watcher?
I think he has good intentions. And I mean, watching all of these failed timelines, I mean, it has to take a toll on a person. I mean, think about it. You see all these civilizations just destroyed. So I feel like he wants to do good and to reset these timelines, or at least help him. I mean, and Steven was even like, punish me and let everybody else go. And I mean, that makes sense, but that's not what that timeline was meant to do. And I feel like he just is wanting to fix these more and more. So,
and this timeline ended worse than any of the other ones before. Like,
everybody died.
All of reality disappeared. Like, the other ones, it was like, oh, that's kind of sucks for Earth. But no, this one, like, everything's just gone now.
Right. And I love, I don't remember the line specifically, but the Watchers his name is Uatu. Uatu.
Or Uatu.
Says, one person, one choice. Was it like one mistake can
change everything.
Can end the world or something, destroy the world or whatever. And that was a really intense thought process with it. And so then the question that I have about Uatu is he going to kind of step in now? Which one of you guys talked to me about the Guardians of the Multiverse theory? Did you guys talk?
Yeah, that was me. That's like apparently that's not the theory. That's like the rumored plot line for the last episode.
Okay, well, I don't want to talk about a rumored plot line because that'll spoil something that nobody's seen.
No, that's the only thing. Yeah, okay. It's just a log line. So,
but basically, the Watcher's bringing people together, isn't in that?
Yeah, to guard from Infinite Ultron, which is a Vision merged with Ultron. So,
we'll have to wait and see. The other thing is, with that one moment, one person can destroy the world. That's kind of what we see with Doctor Strange, right? And obviously that's what we see with Doctor Strange because that's what the Watcher says. But it reminded me some too of, kind of in the biblical narrative, the story there. You've got Adam doing something seemingly innocent or seemingly small, like it's not a big deal, right? Eating fruit isn't a big deal.
Right.
But it sets all of humanity down a course that, is chaos, which is very similar to exactly, this little moment here changes everything. And then you've got that, the flip side of that is you have what Christ did, where his moment, which is much more significant, obviously, than eating fruit. But the idea was that one moment in time with what Christ did actually begins the process of restoring the world. And so we talked about it last week with What If. That's what a big part of these stories are, is these little choices, these little moments make such a huge impact. It's something we should think about, and consider every day, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was easily the most dark and depressing episode yet.
Probably the most dark and depressing thing in the MCU.
Yeah, it didn't wrap up nicely in any way, and we just leave off with a broken Stephen Strange alone with nothing but his regrets for company. It just shows us, though, how the past is what makes us who we are today, and that we shouldn't try to change that. But Nate, what is happening in movies?
Not a lot. I mean, we have
seriously this week, not a lot.
Shang Chi. Nobody wanted to compete with Shang Chi, but we did have a lot of big news come out. So I'll be talking a lot about that.
There we go.
All right, BB Nate. One thing everybody expects to hear on every podcast is one of the hosts asking for ratings and reviews. We do it every week. We've done it for years.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, on our show, it's usually me that asks.
Right. But sometimes people don't really understand how important it is for a podcast. So explain, why are podcast reviews so important?
Well, there are several reasons, but one of the biggest is that they help build the show's credibility. It's kind of like when someone searches for a product on Amazon and it has one review. It doesn't matter that it's 5 stars because a legit product has lots of reviews and hopefully good ones.
Right. Hopefully. It's the same with podcasts. The more good reviews a podcast has, the more likely someone is going to check out the show.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's a listener's promise to the world that our show is worth listening to, and then it's up to us to back up that promise.
Well, that's true, which we are committed to doing.
That's a good thing.
It is. So if you're listening to our show, it's entertained you, it's informed you. If you just like us and you want to help, please head over to podchaser.com/Tatooine Sons. Drop us a review.
Yeah, and remember, you can rate and review more than just the show. You can review individual episodes as well. So if you've already given our show a rating on podchaser.com, then go ahead and just do it on this episode.
Yeah, and as always, if you give us a review, we'll make a donation in your honor to one child to help provide food, medicine, education, and more to a child who really needs it.
Yeah, so please head on over to podchaser.com/Tatooine Sons and review the show.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
So yeah, the only movie with a wide release this weekend is Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. There was nothing else. Nobody wanted to compete with it.
Nobody wants to go up against the MCU.
You know, and it actually helps people figure out how the box office did this weekend. But for some movie news, we got the No Time to Die final trailer, which was more just a minute and a half of No Time to Die and like a minute of things we've already seen from other Daniel Craig Bond movies. Right. There was one thing that was really cool. Safin, which I actually figured out that that's his name, Safin. Right. Not Seven or Sefin, it's Safin. Seems to have a connection with Bond in some way, but we aren't sure what that connection is. Ooh. I hope they don't pull another adopted brother. But Paramount has also delayed the release of Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible 7 until later in 2022. Boo. Yes, that is a big boo. I was excited for Top Gun Maverick in November.
Were you though?
Yeah, actually I was. Okay. This is a good first movie. Patty Jenkins, the writer-director of the Wonder Woman films and Star Wars Rogue Squadron, says she's completely opposed to day-and-day releases going forward. This is her quote from actually a couple hours ago. She said it again. All the films that streaming services are putting out, I'm sorry, they look like fake movies to me.
That may be a little bit too far to go.
Yeah, that is a little, in my opinion, yeah, it's a little bit far.
Yikes.
Yeah, so Dad, what are you talking about this week?
Well, Star Wars Visions is coming to Disney Plus in just a few weeks, and this had us thinking a lot about the influence of the legendary Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa and what the influence he had. He does have a cool
Akira
name.
Kurosawa.
All the influence he had on the galaxy far, far away. So this week, we take a look into his masterpiece, The Hidden Fortress, which is a story of two peasants who assist a general in saving a princess from an evil empire.
Bulky religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
Because you
I watched it with subtitles.
2.5 hours with subtitles.
Basically, like a native speaker.
Like, okay, honestly though, I kind of got used to reading it. Like, it didn't bother me after a little bit of watching it.
Well, when you're old like me, you end up having to read everything on TV anyway. So, all right. So you guys, let's see. BB Nate, you did 10 rings, 1 to 10 rings. Sam, you did 1 to 10 spells. So let's do this. 1 to 10 gold bars.
1 to 10 sticks with some gold bars in them.
Exactly. BB Nate, what were your overall? What's your rating of The Hidden Fortress?
Okay. I'll give it a 7. 7 or 8 out of 10.
fair.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I loved the story. It was really cool. Very different from our type of cinema. It's very different. It was a lot slower paced, but I loved the duel at the end, the only duel that we had, but it was really cool at that. It was like 10 minutes long.
Yeah, that one felt very Star Wars.
It did feel very
which
Star
we aren't going
Wars.
to talk about too much on this episode, that part of it. We've got other things. Sam, for you, 1 to 10 gold bars.
Yeah, 6 or 7, just because, I mean, it's old. Let's just be honest. It's an old movie. That's not a bad thing, but I've grown up where I've got the attention span of a goldfish and I need my movies to move quickly. But that aside, it was a really good movie with an interesting story. And, I mean, it is interesting to see how different cultures tell stories, but also the similarities between them as well.
Right. It's been well documented that George Lucas has credited the Hidden Fortress as having an impact on him and an influence. It's he seems to downplay it just a little bit from what some of the others have suggested. His quote on this, one quote on this says that the influence of the Hidden Fortress comes a lot because it was printed in a book once. And the truth is, the only thing I was inspired by was the fact that it's told from the point of view of two peasants who get mixed up with a samurai and a princess and a lot of very high level people. BB Nate, do you really think that that's all that it influenced in this movie?
I'm sure from old age, he's starting to forget how much he probably took from that movie. There was a lot. I mean, just watching it, the similarities from everything, the duel, really similar to the duel of Obi-Wan and Vader at the end of A New Hope.
Right.
I mean, the guy riding on the horse, I forget the guy's name actually, but when he's chasing those people,
we'll talk about
on the horse.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, Return of the Jedi. It's like there's so many similarities.
Right.
Yeah, I think I don't think he purposefully, consciously made those similarities. I think just as he was making the film, subconsciously, since he grew up on that movie, it was just ingrained in his storytelling. Those things showed up. I'm sure if I became a storyteller and I started telling stories, influences from Star Wars and Marvel and things like and Lord of the Rings would show up in my story just because that's what speaks to me.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of these similarities. One of the first ones and the easiest ones is this visual element. We weren't really very far into the movie at all before we started getting some very major Star Wars vibes from the visual effects alone. Sam, what was the first thing that you noticed that reminded you of Star Wars?
Oh, I mean, it was the opening shot. You had these two peasants arguing. One's shorter than the other by a pretty significant amount. They're bickering at each other. They don't like each other. They're on sand, and then they get upset, and so they go separate ways. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's R2 and 3PO on Tatooine all over again.
Absolutely. What about you, BB Nate? Was there anything else that visually reminded you of Star Wars?
Yeah, the one thing that really pointed.
I mean, you said this earlier.
Yeah, the attack on horseback. It reminded me a lot of the trench run in A New Hope, but also a lot of the speeders on Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, even
in
used
Endor.
a sword in it.
I mean, he hit the people as running by. I'm like, could you not take anything more closely? I mean, I watched a video of this side by side, and I'm like, they're practically the same.
Yeah. Even the transition wipes that were famously used throughout Star Wars in all the films.
That was really cool.
They're there in the Hidden Fortress, so definitely visually connected with that. Samuel the Hunt, you mentioned those peasants just a second ago, and they're arguing at the opening of the film how much 3PO and R2 reminded you of them. But our Star Wars droids are a whole lot more heroic and lovable than the two peasants in the Hidden Fortress. Talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, that's the one thing that didn't sit so right with me. Is these guys are kind of messed up. They're all in it for the gold. At one point, they were talking about doing some not so great stuff with the princess. They were not good people by any means. But their reaction or their interactions and their relationship with each other are very similar to R2 and 3PO. But I do like how George took these low tier members of society. Droids are basically the peasants in Star Wars, but made these two characters heroes. Basically the heroes of the story almost.
Right. BB Nate, what did you think about the peasants?
They were definitely the comedic part of the whole movie. They were
funny.
They were funny. There were points where I laughed. But I mean, you take those out. I do this with a lot of movies, but you take out the comedic relief, which is those two characters, and this movie is very dark in a lot of ways. And so I loved having them in it. I loved how they, like, so many times they're like, let's just leave with the gold and forget about them. And then immediately they change their minds. It is just, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, and you really liked whenever they got into like a sticky situation, they would just like walk away.
Like walking away like nothing's happening here. With that was fun. You know, we have General Makabe. That's the general that you were talking about on horseback earlier. When George Lucas wrote the script for the original Star Wars, we're going to call it that, not A New Hope, because it wasn't that yet. Yeah, it's almost certain that he had General Makabe in mind when crafting the story of old Ben Kenobi. But there's another Jedi that seems to parallel Makabe even more.
Yeah, I mean, Qui-Gon Jinn, I mean, think about it. I mean, he helped Padme out from enemy territory so she can rescue her people. It's just practically
and even the
thing.
back and forth over how to do it and all of that was supposed to be part of that.
It was, I think it was reported early on that Toshiro,
that's going to be a name.
Mifune?
Whatever.
That dude.
Yeah,
the guy that plays General
Makabe was actually considered for the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was, of course, eventually played by Sir Alec Guinness.
Yeah, so the connections are definitely that would have made it like, hello, you're just making an American space version of Hidden Fortress.
Right.
If you bring in the actor that played General Makabe. Now, these parallels with the Phantom Menace, they continue even beyond General Makabe and Qui-Gon Jinn with the idea of the Handmaiden.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed that. Well, she was pretending to be a commoner as she was going around, like princess, she couldn't speak, right. and that helped her, blend in. Nobody thought she'd be a princess. Sabe posing as Padme while Padme is just a handmaiden servant.
Right.
I mean, exactly. There's also like the sacrifice of the handmaiden with Corday and Attack of the Clones.
Right, which they do in this movie. They sacrifice her handmaiden in her place to make people think that she's been killed, which is classic, the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones type stuff. Did you guys, now there's that other general that, remember the opposing general in this.
Okay.
I'm going to try to pronounce his name, General Tadokoro. Did you guys pick up on this or what? That there's a lot of parallels to Anakin Skywalker.
Did. Yeah, I mean, you kind of get this impression when Makabe and
Tadokoro
and them have known each other for years or something and almost served together for a bit. They have a lot of respect for each other. That might be why Makabe lets Tokoro live after he defeats him in this movie.
Right.
Much like Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end of episode 3.
Yeah, exactly. So the redeemed Anakin Skywalker idea comes up at the end of the film. When Tadokoro has the chance to kill Makabe and the princess in that closing scene there. He lets them go, and then he's invited to join them in their escape. It kind of reminds me of Vader. When he turns back to the light and kills the Emperor and is redeemed, there's
I mean, Tadokoro is even scarred at the end of the first confrontation with Makabe and ends up looking a lot like Anakin Skywalker. Have
you seen the parallels, the side by sides on that video I sent to you guys?
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah,
it's practically the same.
Yeah. What are some? It's not a point by point, comparison with this, but there's definitely an influence. Even if George says that it's not as intense as it seems to be,
there's a lot of parallels.
There seems to be. He's got that, like you were saying, it's in his head. It can't help,
right?
But influence. So what are some of the watching this ancient samurai movie, or not ancient? I mean, movies aren't ancient, but before any of us were born. Which, how many movies do we watch that existed before either of us were born?
Right.
What are some lessons that you can take from that?
I think one would be this idea of courage. Over and over again, we see like the princess is willing to risk everything for her people, like Leia or Padme. And General Makabe goes right into the enemy camp if that means protecting his princess.
Yeah, that's interesting. What about you, Nate?
Yeah, definitely. Like compassion is also one. I mean, Princess Yuki has compassion on the slave girl being abused and welcomes her into their fellowship,
right?
Like the Fellowship of the Ring.
You know, that's something we haven't talked about a lot, but that scene was really it was intense. It's just because that's not the scene is not one that will lend itself to a family friendly show. You don't show anything, but the implications are pretty dark as well. I think that, you know, kind of going with the theme here throughout the entire episode this week, this idea of greed, which is really this obsession with money,
right?
With it, you've got these two peasants. They're motivated by that alone. That's all they want is more gold, and that greed then divides them, and it brings out the worst in both of them. They become pretty horrible people. Well, yeah, let's do an official full-on dad moment.
All right.
I am your father.
All right. We've seen this throughout, like I said, all of our big topics this week. In Shang Chi. Shang-Chi, thank you. Wenwu begins his story, obsessed with power and greed. The only thing that slows it down is his love for Shang-Chi's mother. And then after her death, which was actually brought on by Wenwu's own past, he returns to his obsession again, and he loses his children in the process. And then in What If, Steve Strange becomes, I'm going to call him Steve.
Steve, you're that tight.
That's how tight I am with Doctor Strange. He becomes obsessed with bringing Christine back at all costs. It ends up destroying time in itself, and Stephen Strange along with it. And then, as we just saw in The Hidden Fortress, these two peasants' obsession with recovering as much gold for themselves as they possibly can ends up nearly getting them killed multiple times, while almost destroying their relationship with each other. And again, you know, we're Christians, and so we don't apologize for sharing what we believe on these things. But Jesus once said, a principle that doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. It makes good sense to live by. What does it get you to gain the whole world, but lose your very soul? The stories that we've looked at today, they've demonstrated that this kind of obsession can take everything from you. Which makes me wonder if the Jedi philosophy of detachment, living with an open hand, makes a lot of sense. Next week, we're going to continue our Kurosawa film comparisons with The Seven Samurai. Now, this is the first Kurosawa film that George Lucas ever saw. It is a film that inspired BB Nate.
I'm going to like this.
A Star Wars script that Zack Snyder wrote and actually pitched to Lucasfilm, was turned down, but is now being adapted and produced as a non-Star Wars film for Netflix. Pretty interesting.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, so Marvel fans are kind of losing their minds after the official Marvel UK and Ireland account tweeted and then deleted a happy birthday message to Keanu Reeves.
Oh, he's coming to Marvel.
He's coming to Marvel, yeah.
Definitely.
Gotta be totally. And the official trailer for DC Fandom was released.
How you feeling, BB Nate?
Excited, of course. Which is teasing the updates for the Batman, Black Adam, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, The Flash, and most importantly, DC League of the Super Pets.
Yes,
I want the one where the trucks and the cars.
Oh, they don't have that.
The Batmobile one?
We might get something for Batwheels.
That's what I want.
Batwheels?
That sounds awesome.
The update for Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge lets you play as IG-88 in VR.
Yes, sir.
Targeting and like you can look at somebody.
Can I spin my torso 360 degrees?
You know, might as well.
We talked about it at the beginning of the show, so if you've listened all the way to this segment, then
God bless you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you had to go through all of that.
No, I hope that you enjoyed it. We added some new twists and wrinkles, and we hope that that made the show even more interesting than normal. If you're a regular listener of the show, we'd love some feedback on the show. We want to make sure that we're offering the most entertaining and engaging conversation possible. So we are asking you to do one small thing to help us learn a little bit more about you. We'd like you to please email us the answer to this question. What is your favorite podcast and why? Now, we're not assuming we're your favorite podcast or even asking you to email us to tell us that we're your favorite podcast. We legitimately want to know what your favorite podcast is and why. And you can send that answer to the email address feedback@tatooinesons.com. Now, everyone who emails us will be entered into a drawing, and then one lucky winner will get a really fun Turbis shirt from Designed by Humans. Well, it's a Porg shirt, but we know that Porg's name is Turbis. It's
obviously Turbis.
And so please, again, send us your email no later than September 30th, 2021. So if you're listening to this afterwards, we'd still love to know the answer to the question, but the drawing doesn't count for you. That email address, again, is feedback@tatooinesons.com. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for so much for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
Yeah, and if you had a great time listening, and hopefully you did, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Yeah, and of course, the show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world, so be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and join our Facebook group to get in on all the action and keep up to date on everything we've got going on at TatooineSons.com.
Most definitely. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app, so that you don't miss our next episode or any episodes. And you can go back and binge old episodes if you want. And remember that if you do drop us a review at podchaser.com/TatooineSons, we will make a donation in your honor to one child that will help a child living in extreme poverty. So, all right, guys, anything else you guys want to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.